Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. So, have you ever had something happen where you wake up and your day is immediately derailed by something stressful that's going on? Maybe it's a notification on your phone or something that happened overnight, or maybe you're running late for work. Just that one thing happens, and then all of a sudden your day snowballs and it gets worse and worse and more stressful and even more stressful. And then all of a sudden your entire day is ruined from that first moment of stress. Today, we're going to talk about how we can stop letting that one bad moment or that one mood ruin and take over our whole day, because I'm sure this happens to all of us. I could share examples of how it's happened to me this week and how I've been practicing these exact skills. But I'm sure you can think of something right away where that has happened to you, and I would love to hear from you in the chat. And we're going to focus on how we can actually create our own happiness today. And, it's not always easy as people say, don't be sad, don't be anxious. But we can actually invite happiness and joy and gratitude in our lives and determine the flow of our day. And we're going to talk about some real strategies for how we do that. If it's your first time here, welcome or welcome back to Vitality Social Network. I'm your host today, Mellynn, and this is our morning reset series where we are focused on how we are trying to become the best version of ourselves, just a little bit better every single day, so that ultimately we can become the person we dream of that naturally achieves all of our goals in life. And I guess, like I said, I just want to hear from you before I get started and know what typically derails your day. Have you ever had a bad moment that ruined your entire day? Let me know. Did this ever happen to you? You can certainly share in the comments. But you need to ask yourself then, when you wake up first thing in the morning, how do I want to meet today? Do I want today to be full of peace, full of gratitude, full of joy, or a strong direction? And what specifically is it that hijacks your mood the fastest? Is it when you forget to put your clothes in the dryer? Is it when you get that negative notification on your phone? What is it that tends to derail your day? But we're going to consider today how we can actually choose the state that we want to begin in. And one quick example of how we're going to do this is changing our lingo, our way of thinking, our verbiage just a little bit from having to do something to getting to do something. So I'm sure when you wake up in the morning, you're already thinking, okay, I have to take a shower, I have to get dressed, I have to go to work. But if you're focused on improving your mindset and changing your state of mind to be focused on gratitude and positivity, so that when you have that positive energy, it attracts more positive energy to you. One quick, simple switch is switching from I have to do something to I get to. I get the opportunity to spend time with my kids or to have a family. I get to have this job that provides income so that I can afford my home or my car or the food that I have. This type of mindset doesn't necessarily erase your reality, but it changes the energy of the same task and the focus on the challenging negative aspects to putting the focus towards those things that you can appreciate, or recognizing what you've already done or what this brings to you. I don't have to exercise. I get to move my body and I get to live a life where I'm healthy and capable. There are probably many people in life that wish that they could say the same. So we want to focus our mindset just to being a little bit more grateful. And it's not always as easy said than done, right? But a lot of us tend to put happiness on layaway, like I'll be happy when something happens. Once I accomplish this, then I'll become happy. If I could just get through my day, if that negative thing didn't happen, then I would be happy, right? If you don't know what layaway is, this is like kind of a old person term for back in the day. You used to go to like Kohl's or something and put an item on layaway. What that meant is that they would hold it for you, and then you would make off a series of payments, and then once you paid all that money, then you get to have the item that you wanted, right? It's a very different world we live in. A lot of instant gratification. I think that also feeds in our inability to wait, to work for something, to appreciate what we have, and the payoff, the massive reward and impact of working towards that thing that we had to, build up and save for weeks before we could finally get it, instead of getting it after 2 days and Amazon in the mail, right? So we want to change our mindset to, I'm going to choose happiness, and then I will have a better day. If you say the happiness first, it will change what you notice, how you interpret things, how you act. Just a very simple thing is, I was planning this exact conversation for Monday, and then I ended up having pretty much, every issue that could happen technically derailing my day, like my computer wasn't charging or wanting to turn on. Finally, when I got it turned on, my microphone cord was missing, and then the screen wasn't working that I usually plug into to share my slides for some reason. And, it was just like one thing after the next, in addition to everything chaotic happening around me with my family, my children, my life, right? And then I decided, I can either let this completely stress me and get me all frazzled and angry and irritated and ruin my whole day, or I can just decide to pause and say, hey, maybe now's not the time for this conversation. Maybe I need to practice what I preach a little bit more, put these steps into place, decide that I'm not going to let this get me angry and irritated where I show up and my entire mood impacts the conversation that I'm having with you all, and I'm just, frustrated clicking through slides or something, right? I want to make sure that I'm bringing my best to these activities. And I'm sure that you can think of a similar example. Like people say, be grateful when you end up running late for work because you couldn't find your keys, because, that 5 minutes could be the difference between when somebody pulled through a stop sign without paying attention and kept you from crashing, right? Like you never really know what the bigger plan and the bigger picture in life is that maybe is looking out for you, and allowing things to line up the way that they need to. So you can take control of your life and say, hey, even though um, this day didn't go the way that I planned, I can still choose to be happy today, and then I will have a better stream when I decide to show up and give my all to it, right? I will have a better attitude for my family instead of allowing this to change the way that I treat everyone else around me. So when you have this type of mindset, it gives you more confidence, it gives you more resilience, it allows just more positive momentum in general. And it's not easy, but it does take that practice and consistency, because your brain is going to look for receipts. And this works both ways. Like we've talked about, this sort of feedback loop that your mind gets into, where if you start off thinking, everything is going wrong and I'm going to have a terrible day, then the minute something slightly negative happens to you, your brain takes that as evidence and reinforces that negative belief and tells you, you're right. Exactly. It is a bad day because something negative happened, and now I'm going to continue to be angry or upset. And then because I'm angry or upset, the next negative thing happens, it reinforces the loop, and that gets stronger and stronger, right? And the positive momentum can work the same. You can have a positive loop where you say, today I'm going to try to be grateful for every small positive action someone takes towards me. And no matter how minor, I'm going to make sure I acknowledge it and recognize it. And then, what happens? The minute somebody opens the door for you or pays it forward for your meal for the day or something like that, you're noticing it and you're grateful for it, and you're realizing, yeah, you know what? Maybe the day is not so bad, and I can actually be thankful and practice that gratitude, right? So, whoop. So that's what we want to be able to do. And really, like I said, sometimes it's not always easy to practice what you preach. And I have a specific example of something that happened to somebody pretty close to me the other day, really, where basically, um, the end result was they crashed their car. Okay, but the beginning result was the dog got loose. Okay, so the dog got loose because I guess they weren't wearing, their boundary collar, right? So then when they got loose, the next thing that happened was they went out searching for them. And that time and energy got them frustrated, and they had their hazard lights on while they were driving slow. And then because they had their hazard lights on, their battery got drained. They were stressed and forgot them and left them on. And then they went out and they were trying to charge their battery on their car, and they're still frustrated and they're still angry and they're still, in a rush, in that frazzled, frantic state of mind, going, not able to slow down, to pause, to breathe, to see things differently, to choose how they were going to react and take their next step actively, intentionally. And then once they then had to move their car after getting it jumped, I think they had left, they left something on top of the car. So they jumped out really quickly to get it. And when they jumped out to get the thing off the top of their car, they had left the car in neutral or whatever it was, reverse, right? So then it just started rolling down the hill. They had to jump back in. And then because they were stressed, they hit the gas instead of the brakes. And then boom, before they know it, they crash into a tree behind them. So that's that exact chain reaction of events that can happen when you allow your mind to be taken over, right? And you allow that negative feedback loop to happen. So sometimes you do have to recognize when that's going on and intentionally pause yourself, ground yourself, decide, how am I going to take my next step? How am I going to choose to move forward, to take control of my life and not allow this negative cycle to take over and continue, choose my life for me, right? So this is an example I like to share called Don't Shoot the Second Arrow. This is a practice that you learn in Buddhism. And really, the first arrow is just what happened. Something negative already happened. An event happened that was challenging. It caused you to have negative emotions and those difficult feelings. And then after those difficult feelings happen, then the second arrow is what you add to what happened, how you react, how you respond, the next step that you take when you're in the negative state of mind. You're stressed and you're already in a bad headspace, and then so you scream at your kid, and then now your kid's crying, and now you have to correct that, right? So it's that chain reaction where you can recognize the first arrow. You might not be able to control the first feeling, but you can change what happens next and how you respond to that first feeling. Okay, that's your ability to, choose the positive momentum replacement, or maybe you just land somewhere in the middle. You don't have to turn the whole day around necessarily, just the very next moment at least. Okay. And again, I would love to know, has this ever happened to any of you where you have that negative feedback loop? The first arrow is shot, and then because you were stressed out, because you weren't thinking straight, you shot the next arrow. The way that you reacted, the story you told yourself, the next decision you made only made things worse. Or do you happen to have a positive example of where you were able to, you know, what they call neutral jing in Avatar? I just rewatched that, where gray rock and you do nothing, and then maybe everything chaotic happens around you, but you at least are able to be at peace with yourself and not let it impact you. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe when somebody, for example, chooses the wrong, you can decide to show love for them and say, you know what, they must be having a really bad day. Let me extend compassion and grace for that person and have an olive branch instead of yelling at them and making them feel worse. How can I be kind? And maybe that kindness will start a new cycle and momentum forward. So we have choices when it comes to how we choose to respond to emotionally difficult situations. We do. So the next concept I want to share with you is your emotional budget, okay? So let's say you maybe you've heard about the spoon theory. Have you ever heard about that? Um, Maybe you start the day with 10 spoons, or you start the day with $100, and you spend $25 replaying an argument that happened yesterday, and $20 worrying about what's going to happen later on in the day, and $15 comparing you to your neighbor's house or car, and $10 doom scrolling. Then how many dollars do you have left for your actual life? To spend on your kids, to spend on your self-care, to spend on your job or your dreams or your skills or your passion. You're probably running out of dollars at that point, I would imagine. So it's important to keep that in mind, that you have limited energy, limited capacity to spend, your emotional energy on all of these stressful things that happen each day. So like I said, you don't get to necessarily choose the first moment, but you do get to choose the very next moment that happens afterwards, and how you react and how you respond, and the story that you tell yourself and what you choose to ruminate over. And so you get to decide how much of your emotional budget you're going to spend on that negative thing that took place, and whether you're going to let it take your entire day, ruin all of your energy and your effort, or if it's only going to take a little bit of your day. Maybe it cost you only 5 or 10 minutes because of that difficult thing that happened, and then you were able to reset and get back to normal, okay? So you get to decide how much of your budget that you want to spend on those challenging things, okay? And if you're here, I just want to say thank you for spending any amount of your emotional energy with me, whether you're here this morning and you showed up for me, or you're on the replay because I started a little bit behind this morning and have been a little bit off my A game. Any of your support means the absolute world to me, whether you just are a viewer, or you comment on the replay, or you like or share the stream. All of that engagement means so much to me. It's a vote of confidence that I should keep showing up for you, that you guys appreciate this content and it's meaningful for you, or that you just want me to keep, doing this for myself because it's worthwhile. But I really enjoyed building this little community of people that are focused on bettering themselves, or are interested in being part of our live streaming network and sharing their passions and their interests with educating other people. So if you want to be a part of this community, if you ever want to chat with me offline outside of the stream, feel free to join our Discord network. The link is in the comments, and we would be happy to have you there. And before we depart, I just want to share another concept with you, which is, your little morning reset menu. Okay, so this is how you get to have your takeaway, your closing visual. You can screenshot this or save it, but you want to walk through what you're going to choose to do today in the different main categories of your life. So you want to honor your body and your mind. You want to bring joy or gratitude into your life. So you get to choose, I'm going to start my day with the walk or with water, taking care of my body. I'm going to make sure I have time to journal and be mindful and set my intentions for the day. I get to choose the direction of my day. So then when things come to shake you, you're a stronger tree trunk. You have stronger roots planted. You already know who you're trying to be for the day. So you're not going to be shaken to where all of your apples and all your leaves fall off. You might just lose a little bit of that emotional budget, a little bit of your apples. And then you can get back to, oh yeah, I set my intention and my plan for the day. I decided who I want to be. I decided how I'm going to spend my energy today, and I'm not going to let that challenging thing control my life or control me. I'm going to decide that I won't put happiness away until tomorrow, or until I accomplish all of my dreams, or until, nothing bad ever happens to me. Because if you wait until nothing bad ever happens to you, then you are going to be probably waiting for the rest of your life to be happy. And how disappointing would that be, There's no need to wait for the rest of your life to be happy. You can choose to begin today. You can choose to decide to be grateful, to add joy into your life, to be compassionate, to be forgiving, to be understanding. And like I said, it's not always easy, but I promise you it's more worthwhile than shooting the second arrow and making things snowball in a negative direction. Sometimes you just have to recognize, like, today is not my day. This situation is not my situation. This is trying to challenge me and shake me, and I'm going to recenter and recognize who I am and what I want for myself. And if I need to take a nap and get up and try again tomorrow, or focus on something else for the day because that's the direction the day is taking me, and it'd be better, worthwhile for my energy to be spent on something else, then that's a decision that you are allowed to make. You get to decide how you react to things, the story you tell yourself, the decisions that you make, and that's your evidence loop to prove to yourself that you don't have to be overwhelmed by the stressful things other people or other things bring into your life. And you are capable of choosing happiness and moving forward in that direction. And that's what I want to see for all of you. Like I said, it's not always, sometimes it's easier said than done, but I've been trying to practice that week, and you've heard some of my little stories already of how it can negative spiral. I just have one more quick one I'll share with you. This happened my first and only time I've ever had a road rage experience. Was like a day that was already started by stress, like I was running late for work, my clothes weren't drying the dryer, and I was in a rush, and I was dealing with something else, like someone else that was being difficult to me, and then I'm in the car, and then somebody starts honking at me, and I have no idea why, because I didn't do anything wrong. It pissed me off so bad. I was like, I'm just going to drive in front of them and slow down so I can make them take all day to get where they're going to go, right? And they have to just take their time right behind me. And I was just being a butt like that, which I normally am not. And fortunately, I didn't take it to the next level of being unsafe. I know some people that do, then you'd be driving really crazy, and then you cause a wreck, and then all of a sudden your day is 10 times worse than just running late, right? Or you get a ticket, and then now you're running 30 minutes late instead of 5 minutes late. So just keep that in mind next time something stressful happens. It's like, do you want that to take control of the rest of your day, or do you have the ability to pause and decide the next step that you take? And I promise that you do. So I hope that this meant something for you today. Like I said, I would love to hear any examples of how you were able to take charge of your life, or if this ever happened to you, and maybe we can talk about advice we can give you, because the reason I wanted to bring this topic up today was because things aren't always easy. Like I'm trying to talk about how I can add productivity to my life, how I can have better habits, how I can keep moving forward towards my goals, but I'm challenged every day, and I'm sure that you guys are too. And so I have to keep these concepts front of mind. I have like 20 books on the matter that I keep reading, and so I'm trying to do more of like practicing what I know and what I preach instead of just reading about it. I'm trying to share it. I'm trying to live it. So I hope that we can all continue to do this kind of thing together. And I'll be back for you on Friday, I promise. And I will keep learning and keep growing. And I just want to close out our conversation with my theme song that I have, so we can have one little positive note of joy into our life. One moment of, taking a deep breath and starting our day with intention, okay? Thank you, everybody.
Take one deep breath. Let good energy in. Feel that spark under your skin. Refresh your mind. Rebuild your momentum. Reclaim your life. One small win today, then another, then three. Tiny steps make thunder. Progress comes free. You're still alive, so take back your life. Take one deep breath.
Literally, take a minute, breathe, reset your day, decide your intention. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to those who watched to the end and stayed with me. Thank you for those who show up every day. Really appreciate all of you, and hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I'll be thinking of you and sending positive energy and prayers to you. Love you all.